A group of 5 tried to destroy you, but something terrible happened instead. Archangel Michael says, "There are hidden things moving behind the curtain of your life, and tonight I must reveal them with urgency." 5 people, united not by love but by envy, set their sights on you in ways that few could imagine. They whispered, they plotted, they carved out a dark path meant to bring you down. The air grew thick around you even when you were unaware, because their thoughts carried weight. In quiet meetings and secret calls, their voices trembled not with fear but with ambition against you. They believed they had covered every trail, leaving you vulnerable without knowing the storm that had been set. But heaven's eyes are never closed, and the truth carries its own power. The plan, though sharp and carefully designed, was already cracking even before they thought it began. Something awaited them on the path of betrayal, something they never saw coming. One by one, each member of this circle of 5 began to notice strange events. Their steps were heavy, their hearts uneasy, and yet they pressed forward in their mission. The night they thought would end with your fall turned into the beginning of their unraveling. The leader of the 5 carried the strongest resentment toward you. This person believed they had been wronged, though their anger was built on nothing more than illusions. They carried their bitterness like fire, waiting for the perfect moment to ignite it. Another among them was quieter, pretending loyalty while feeding lies into the ears of others. They were the shadow in the group, rarely speaking but always listening, storing information like a thief of trust. This one was the most dangerous, because silence can strike deeper than words. A third carried greed in their pockets, never satisfied with what they had. Your success in any form was like a knife to their pride, and so they reached out to destroy rather than grow. They thought tearing you down would somehow lift them higher. The fourth was weak, but weakness still carries risk when tied to jealousy. They followed because they could not stand alone, believing safety was found in numbers. Their fear made them an accomplice, though they had no strength of their own. The fifth one, though, was different. Their role was to disguise kindness, to smile at you even while standing with the others. This was the one who left you the most exposed, because they earned your trust before twisting it. Together, the 5 crafted their plan like architects of downfall. They aligned every detail, timing each step with precision. They laughed in their arrogance, convinced that no one would ever discover their secret ties. Yet, something began to stir against them. Their nights became restless, filled with strange whispers in their dreams. Their eyes carried shadows, and their hands shook even when still. The energy they raised against you became the weight that pressed upon their own lives. What they built for your destruction turned into the pit opening beneath their own feet. It was only the beginning of their downfall. The 5 believed they were walking into victory. But destiny had prepared a moment that none of them foresaw. It came suddenly, without warning, as the force they unleashed circled back toward them. On the very night of their meeting, the air turned cold. The lights above them flickered as if unseen hands had brushed against the wires. Fear began to grow inside them, though none would speak of it aloud. Their words echoed strangely, bouncing off the walls in tones they didn't recognize. Every attempt to finalize their plan seemed to be interrupted by small disturbances. The table shook, papers scattered, and one of them gasped in disbelief. Still, arrogance kept them seated. They believed these were coincidences, mere accidents. But in truth, their downfall had already begun in that very moment. The first terrible event struck the one who held the most anger. Driving home from the meeting, their path was covered in mist that seemed unnatural. They lost their way, circling roads they knew too well, as though trapped in a maze. Their hands tightened on the wheel, their chest heavy with dread. They thought of you, picturing your face with contempt, but the road would not release them. It was as if the very night rejected their presence. Meanwhile, the second, the silent one, was struck with haunting dreams. They woke screaming, drenched in sweat, unable to remember the details but shaken to their core. Every time they closed their eyes, they saw shadows moving toward them. The third, the greedy one, suddenly found themselves losing what they once held. Their finances slipped away, unexpected losses piling higher and higher. What they tried to steal from you was taken from them instead. The fourth, the weakest, grew sick with fear. They could not eat, could not sleep, for the burden of guilt crushed them from inside. Their body reflected the poison they had chosen to drink in secret. And then, the fifth, the smiling traitor, was exposed in the most brutal way. A message meant for the group was accidentally sent to someone else. Their mask fell, and with it, their position of false trust collapsed. Panic spread among them like wildfire. What was once confidence turned into finger-pointing and suspicion. Each one began to wonder who would betray the others first. The group that once stood together in dark unity crumbled into pieces. They no longer looked at each other as allies but as enemies. Their secret pact was now a curse binding them, not a shield protecting them. But while they fell apart, you were being lifted. Protection surrounded you like armor, unseen but powerful. Every step you took was preserved, even when you knew nothing of their plan. Your energy, your light, grew brighter, and this only fueled their despair. They realized too late that attacking you meant fighting against something greater than themselves. It was a battle they could never win. Archangel Michael says, "You were never alone in this." Every attempt they made was intercepted, every snare broken before it reached you. Even in silence, the shield of heaven was active over your life. The five, however, could not escape what they had chosen. They opened the door, and what came through was not victory but their own destruction. Each of them began to suffer in ways they could not hide. The first among them grew restless, unable to find peace in any place. They moved from one location to another, but the heaviness followed like a shadow. Sleep became an enemy, and their own mind turned against them. The second sank into silence, avoiding everyone they once conspired with. They no longer joined meetings, no longer spoke boldly. Their lips trembled whenever they tried to speak your name. The third, who had always chased money, was stripped of opportunities. Contracts collapsed, investments failed, and doors that were once wide open slammed shut. Their hands shook as they realized all they had worked for was slipping through like sand. The fourth found themselves plagued with sickness. Doctors searched for answers, but no clear explanation could be given. The more they tried to hide it, the worse their body weakened. The fifth was caught in webs of exposure. Friends who once trusted them now stepped back in disgust. Their smiling face was now seen as the mask it had always been. The unity of the five was broken, scattered into pieces that could never return. Their whispers became screams of blame, accusing each other of betrayal. What they meant for you was now destroying them from within. Meanwhile, your path was being prepared with light. Doors began to open, the right connections forming. Every setback you faced was being turned into alignment for something greater. Your spirit felt the shift, even if your mind could not fully explain it. You began to sense the release of a burden you never asked to carry. And quietly, blessings were positioned at your side. But their story didn't end there. As they collapsed individually, something more terrifying awaited them together. For their plan had stirred forces they could not control. The night they once chose to meet again became their downfall. Each one, though reluctant, arrived with heavy hearts. The atmosphere was thick, charged with something they could not deny. Suddenly, the air grew colder, heavier. The lights flickered just as before, but this time they went completely out. A darkness filled the room, pressing against their lungs like a weight. Whispers filled the silence, voices they did not recognize. Some tried to leave, but the doors resisted as though sealed. Their faces turned pale, fear consuming every ounce of pride. One cried out, blaming the others for the misfortune. Another screamed, claiming to see shadows moving across the walls. The greedy one clutched their chest, trembling with pain. The weakest fell to the ground, begging for mercy. Their body shook violently, and the others pulled back in terror. None of them dared to touch, for they feared the same fate. The traitor, once so confident, stood frozen in silence. Their smile was gone, replaced by trembling lips and hollow eyes. It was clear they had lost all power to hide. The room became a prison, every sound echoing like thunder. They realized the terrible truth: what they unleashed against you was returning multiplied. And now there was no escape. As this collapse deepened, your own life grew brighter. You felt unusual peace, the kind that cannot be explained by logic. It was the mark of protection rising around you. Opportunities began to show themselves at unexpected times. You met new faces, kind hearts, and doors that others could never close. What was meant to bury you was now paving your way forward. Your spirit carried strength, as if a new fire was ignited inside you. Even when challenges appeared, they no longer shook you as before. A steady presence followed you, guiding each step. Archangel Michael says, "What was meant to destroy you has become proof of your resilience." The five who rose against you are now testimonies of what happens when envy meets divine justice. And your story has only just begun to rise in victory. The leader of the five, once proud, could no longer hold power over the others. Their words carried no weight, their plans collapsed like dust in the wind. They sat trembling, realizing their voice no longer commanded fear. The second, the quiet one, fell into paranoia. They could no longer trust even the sound of their own footsteps. Every shadow felt alive, every corner carried whispers. The third, greedy and restless, began to lose control of their own home. Objects moved on their own, strange noises filled the night. The walls themselves seemed to reject their presence. The fourth grew weaker, body frail and fading. They sought help in many places, but nothing changed. The sickness was deeper than medicine could touch. The fifth, the smiling traitor, faced the greatest exposure. Secrets they thought buried rose to the surface. Their mask was stripped away in front of everyone they once deceived. People whispered about their betrayal. Doors they once entered freely were now closed against them. Their name became a warning instead of a welcome. Together, the five turned against each other with violence in their words. Friendship was forgotten, loyalty destroyed. Each accused the other of bringing the curse upon them. But the truth was undeniable. They had created the storm themselves. And now, they were drowning in the very flood they released. Your spirit was rising even higher. Blessings unfolded like pages of a story meant only for you. The pain of the past began to heal, piece by piece. Your name carried light in places you never expected. Those who once doubted you began to see your strength. Even strangers felt drawn to your presence. The atmosphere around you grew calm, filled with favor. Unexpected messages, opportunities, and support found their way into your hands. What was once blocked now opened freely. And every time the five tried to rise again, they only sank deeper. The forces they awakened would not release them. Their path was sealed in darkness, while yours glowed brighter. The leader finally broke down in despair. They confessed their anger aloud, admitting the weight of envy that consumed them. But their words were empty, for the damage was already done. The silent one could not bear the pressure. They isolated themselves completely, hiding from even their closest allies. Paranoia had consumed their life. The greedy one lost everything. Wealth vanished, possessions gone, and even their pride collapsed. They were left empty, staring at the ruins of their ambition. The weak one's health gave way entirely. Their body could not sustain the burden of guilt any longer. What began as weakness ended in complete collapse. The traitor, however, met the most terrible ending. Their own family turned against them, unable to endure the shame. They were left alone, isolated, carrying the weight of their lies. Their smiles vanished forever, replaced by hollow eyes and trembling lips. No charm could save them, no disguise could hide them. Their fall was louder than all the others combined. And so the circle of five was broken beyond repair. Once bound by envy, they were now divided by fear and ruin. Their names carried no power, only caution. Meanwhile, your name carried honor. The light upon you grew stronger, unshaken by all that came against you. And your story became one of survival and triumph. The five who once gathered in darkness were now scattered in ruin. Each walked alone, burdened by the weight of choices that could never be undone. They had lost the power they once thought was theirs to hold. The leader faded into silence, no longer bold, no longer feared. Their arrogance had collapsed into shame. The fire of hatred that once burned inside them now left only ashes. The silent one lived in constant fear, eyes darting with every sound. Their life was no longer their own, for they were trapped by paranoia. They built walls around themselves, but even those walls felt unsafe. The greedy one was left bankrupt in both wealth and spirit. They searched desperately for a way to regain what they had lost. But every step forward collapsed into deeper loss. The weak one, consumed by illness, could not escape their own body. The weight of betrayal had left scars too deep to heal. They became a warning to others of the cost of following shadows. The traitor remained the most broken of them all. Their lies echoed back like chains they could not escape. Every place they entered carried whispers of their shame. They avoided mirrors, unable to look at themselves. Their once charming smile had become a ghost of deceit. The mask they wore was destroyed forever. And while they fell, you rose. Every step you took was preserved by unseen hands. The world itself began to shift in your favor. The storms they sent against you returned with greater force. But the shield around you was stronger than their envy. No weapon formed against you was allowed to succeed. Your energy grew like a flame, steady and unshaken. Every day carried new signs of breakthrough. Even in silence, you were being prepared for more. The blessings that awaited you began to arrive one by one. Unexpected allies appeared, strangers who became helpers. Every blocked road was replaced with a new path. And through it all, your spirit carried peace. Not the peace of absence, but the peace of protection. The kind that rises even in the middle of storms. The five could not deny the truth any longer. They admitted among themselves that what was happening was beyond their control. But by then, it was too late. The leader lost all standing in their community. No one listened to them anymore. Their words were hollow, their presence unwelcome. The silent one disappeared completely. Their fear drove them away from everyone, leaving them hidden in shadows. Their name was forgotten, erased by their own isolation. The greedy one's downfall was public and humiliating. They became an example of pride turned into dust. All who once admired them now mocked their fall. The weak one's health crumbled completely. What little strength remained was stolen by sleepless nights and guilt. They faded, unseen and unremembered. The traitor faced judgment in the eyes of those closest to them. Their family's trust was shattered. The betrayal cut deeper than words could measure. Their own footsteps betrayed them, heavy with despair. No corner was safe, no place offered rest. They became a wanderer in their own life. And the five who once moved as one were now broken forever. Destroyed not by your hand, but by the very plan they created. Their ruin was the echo of their own choices. Now your story turns brighter. What once was a heavy season has turned into a pathway of joy. Every delay is being transformed into divine timing. Your name will be carried to places you never expected. Honor will cover you like a garment. And doors of influence will be opened before you. Your heart will find rest in this season. For you are not standing in the ruins of what others tried to destroy. You are standing in the rising of your own destiny. Archangel Michael says, your protection is sealed, your blessings are unfolding, and no hand raised against you will prosper. The fall of the five is complete, and your rising is unstoppable. Walk forward, for your story has shifted forever. The season of their ruin became the season of your elevation. Everything they touched turned against them, while everything you touched turned to progress. This was not by accident but by divine arrangement. You were lifted beyond their reach. The envy that once followed you could no longer catch you. Your pace was guided by a strength unseen. The five faded like shadows at sunrise. Their names carried no power, their stories ended in silence. But your name began to echo in places they could never touch. The weight of betrayal no longer chained your heart. Instead, your heart carried freedom. You had survived what was meant to destroy you. New doors opened with ease. The right connections began to surround you. Your life became marked by favor in every step. Where others struggled, you found a way. Where others doubted, you carried certainty. The very atmosphere around you shifted. You began to shine brighter. Opportunities lined themselves in your path. Blessings multiplied as if drawn toward you. And in the silence of night, peace covered you. The storms that once threatened were gone. Calmness filled the spaces where chaos tried to live. The collapse of the five became a story told by others. Whispers spread of how they once conspired against you. And how suddenly, each of them fell one after another. People began to see that your rise was not ordinary. It was clear that you were being protected by a higher force. The light around you could not be denied. Where once envy followed, now respect appeared. Even those who once stood far off began to acknowledge your strength. They could not explain it, but they could not ignore it. The truth became undeniable. You were chosen to rise above every trap, every scheme. Their failure became your testimony. The leader disappeared into silence. No longer feared, no longer followed. They became a forgotten name in the stories of others. The silent one was swallowed by their own fear. They no longer appeared in circles of influence. Their life was consumed by shadows of paranoia. The greedy one lived in ruin. Once boasting of wealth, they now had nothing left to show. Their downfall was complete, leaving only emptiness. The weak one faded away, consumed by their own body's collapse. They carried regret to their final breath. And their story ended without victory. The traitor, the smiling deceiver, lived in complete exposure. Their lies destroyed every connection they once held. Even their family turned away, leaving them in silence. Their downfall was the loudest, the most visible. They became an example to all of what happens when betrayal rules the heart. No recovery could erase the scars of their actions. And so the five were finished. The circle was broken forever. What they created in secret ended in public ruin. While they vanished, you flourished. While they crumbled, you rose. The balance had shifted completely in your favor. Type Amen 28:28 to flourish while others fade. Now your name will be spoken in places of honor. Your life will be marked by victories no enemy can touch. Every step forward will be a reminder of how far you've come. Your hands will hold what once felt impossible. Your eyes will see breakthroughs that others could not imagine. Your path will shine brighter with each passing day. The weight of envy has been broken forever. The storm has been silenced. And your destiny has opened wide before you. This is your season of unstoppable rise. This is your moment of release. This is your story of victory. And so the story ends with 5 who chose darkness but were consumed by it. Their ruin was swift, their collapse complete. But your survival, your rise, your strength, became the lasting truth. You are covered, you are preserved, and you are lifted. Every trap has turned into testimony. Every plan has turned into proof of your protection. The 5 are gone, their voices silenced forever. But your voice remains, your path continues. And your light shines brighter than ever before. Walk forward now. The story of betrayal has ended. The story of victory has begun. The weight of the past no longer clings to your shoulders. You have walked through fire and did not burn. You have stood in storms and did not fall. Every scar has become a mark of strength. Every tear has watered the soil of your new growth. What once was pain has now become preparation. The enemies who gathered against you are finished. They will never rise again. Their shadows cannot reach the light you now carry. Your story is not defined by what they tried to do. Your story is defined by how you rose above it all. And that story is only beginning to unfold. The world around you is shifting in your favor. People who once overlooked you will now take notice. The very ones who doubted you will watch your rise in silence. Your steps are steady now. The ground that once shook beneath you has become solid. Your path is secured in ways you never imagined. The blessings prepared for you are larger than the battles you faced. The victories ahead are greater than the pain behind you. Your destiny stretches farther than their schemes ever reached. Even now, your spirit is being elevated. A new chapter has already opened, waiting for you to walk into it. And no one can close the doors that are opening for you. Type Amen 3232 to declare no door can be closed against you. The fall of the 5 is permanent. They cannot recover what they lost. Their own hands destroyed their future. They are bound to the choices they made. They are tied to the darkness they embraced. And nothing can rewrite what has been sealed. But you are free. Your name carries no chains, only light. Your destiny has no limits, only expansion. This is why the atmosphere has shifted. This is why your heart feels lighter. The season of struggle has passed. Type Amen 3333 to walk into your limitless destiny. The story of your life will inspire others. Those who hear it will see that protection is real. They will know that you stood strong when many tried to break you.